So Jesus is subversive. You know that, right? If you hear this gospel today, this is a subversive teacher. He's turning everything upside down. He's revaluing everything in a different way than any of us value things. When Jesus says, "Blessed are the persecuted," he's speaking in a culture that is dominated by a hierarchy of oppression. In that culture, to say, "Blessed are the persecuted," is to subvert the authorities of that culture. Jesus says, "Blessed are the meek." In societies where we value people who are persuasive, who are confident, who are authoritative, people who are powerful, people who are aggressive and assertive even, in that kind of a culture, which maybe some of you know a culture like that, to say, "Blessed are the meek," that's subversive of that entire culture. In a culture where Jesus was, and many cultures, that was dominated by an alpha male who had a massive army that was used at that person's whim, a person who had a commanding personality, who governed by force, Jesus says, "Blessed are the peacemakers." That is subversive. That would have been subversive in Jesus's day, and it would be subversive today, I think, to value the world, to value people that way. Now, I don't think it's saying that God prefers the poor or the peacemakers, or God prefers only these groups of people, only these characteristics. But I think it's saying that each of us has the capacity to be peacemakers. Each of us has the capacity to be meek in a sense of being vulnerable. Each of us has a capacity to be open to God and to each other. And when Jesus is speaking so subversively like this, Jesus is subverting a culture that would have us close down and not be vulnerable and not be open, to model ourselves after people who are strong and authoritative and commanding, to respond to people who respond with assertion and aggression. Jesus is telling us all to subvert that way of being as individuals and that way of being as a society. I was looking at this last year, looking at the Beatitudes, part of the Sermon on the Mount, and I thought I would like to remember this list. I'm not going to be able to memorize this entire Sermon on the Mount, but this list of people that Jesus calls blessed, I'd like to memorize this list for myself. And I looked at it and I said, well, look at that. There are 3 M's. And any of you know the 3M company makes Scotch tape out of Minnesota, right? The 3 M's are those who mourn, those who are meek, and those who are merciful. And then there are 4 P's. So you got the 3 M's and then you got the 4 P's. The poor, the pure in heart, the peacemakers, and the persecuted. That's a way to remember this group. And if you think 3 M's, you're probably going to remember meek, right? And if you remember meek, you're probably going to remember those who mourn, and then the merciful. If you remember the P's, you're going to remember the persecuted and the peacemakers. And then you just have the poor and the pure in heart. Matthew's version of the Sermon on the Mount is a little bit different than Luke's. Matthew says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." And Matthew says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." Luke does not say, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." Luke says, "Blessed are the poor," because Luke has a more subversive understanding of Jesus' gospel, that he would be not watering down the idea of poor, but saying the poor, and not poor in spirit in some spiritual way. So I left out of my list of P's and M's those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, because I just thought about Luke's Beatitudes and just put together poor and hungry. So the 4 P's include the poor and the hungry that we have from Matthew here. So for All Saints Sunday, we think about those who we've lost and we remember them, and we ask God's help for our grief and for our loss. All Saints Sunday, though, is also about an inclusive understanding of saints, that we understand the saints are everyone, not just a select group of people. St. Paul, when he wrote to Rome, when he wrote to the Galatians, when he wrote to the Corinthians, he wrote about the saints in those places, and he meant all of them. He was writing to a group of people, to a community of people, and he saw them as saints. And so we also remember on this day this text from the Beatitudes, because it talks about the saints as an inclusive community of people.
The good news according to Matthew, chapter 5. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ. Sign of the peace. Hello, Lori. Good to have you today. Hello, Daisy. So we're going to have a
Good morning,
budget
Pastor.
presentation. Good morning, Daisy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lori. Is your mom with you?
Daisy.
Yes, she's here actually. Yeah.
So, hello, Margaret and Bill.